I want to bring Erin McLaughlin back in. She's in Kyiv. She's been up listening to the explosions going off, the air raid sirens, and is now gathering a lot of information about what is happening in that city. A lot of people woke up this morning, Erin, to a world very different than the one they went to sleep in.
Yeah, that's right, Ali. It is calm right now. It's been 2 hours since we heard the last explosion and an hour since we heard the last siren. We are now hearing, however, from an advisor to the Minister of the Interior saying that tanks are crossing the border from Belarus into Ukraine. A live stream apparently shows a stream of tanks at the Sankivka crossing. I was at that crossing some 3 weeks ago. It's a remote crossing. It essentially marks the intersection of Russia, Belarus, and Ukraine. I was there speaking to the Border Patrol guards there, and one of the guards told me that she has been instructed if she sees anything to call the Ukrainian military. The issue, of course, being in that portion of the country, for years now, Ukraine has only known peace with Belarus. It is only until recently that Belarus has assumed a hostile position toward Ukraine, and most of the Ukrainian military have been trained on the eastern portion of the country and the war raging in Donbass. So the northern border has been identified as a point of vulnerability. I've spoken to Ukrainian military experts about it. They were aware of it. They were trying to mitigate that. They were conducting exercises in recent weeks along the northern border. I think the question now, given that tanks are crossing from Belarus across the border into Ukraine, is how will the Ukrainian military respond? It is not clear at this point, and it is worth noting that that border crossing is about a 3.5-hour drive from where I'm standing now, Ali.
Do we have any clarity on, are those Russian troops coming in from Belarus, or are those Belarusian troops coming in from Belarus, or do we not know?
It is unclear at this time. And all I have right now is tanks are being seen crossing the border. It's unclear if it is from Russian troops or Belarusian troops. But also unclear if they're coming to Kyiv. But they're certainly headed in the direction of the capital. Meanwhile, here in the capital, people continue to evacuate the highway going west to the western portion of the country, which is widely seen as the safest place to be at this point, is completely jammed. This is a city under martial law. Schools are closed today. Hospitals, the entire medical system is on a state of heightened alert. We're also hearing that they're working to open up the shelters. Speaking to city officials, they have enough shelters here for about 2.8 million people. At night, there's about 3.5 million in the city. So we are also hearing reports that when those sirens were going off, directing people to get to the shelters, many of the shelters were completely packed.
Wow.
So this is a really scary and terrifying situation for the people here in Kyiv. It is worth noting that up until this point, the government has been downplaying this threat and speaking to experts in the buildup to where we are now. And they were critical of that. They said that, you know, while, yes, you want to maintain calm, you don't want people to panic, you also need to inform your population as what to do in the event of the worst case scenario. And I can tell you, Ali, right now, this certainly appears to be the worst case scenario, which is an all-out full-scale invasion of this country,
including the capital. And you're right. Even until a week ago, you had the president of Ukraine suggesting that maybe the West needs to lower the heat on this whole thing, and it may not all be that bad. And I should say, unfair to ask you who those tanks are, because even in 2014, there was always the speculation there were unnamed, unbadged soldiers who had come over, the little green men, who are believed to have been Russian soldiers, but did not identify themselves. So figuring out who's actually coming into Ukraine would be a hard task at the best of times.
I think the difference here, though, Ali, is that in 2014 in Donbass, you know, Russia tried to maintain the pretext that it was the separatists that were at the helm of that military operation there. When, you know, it was pretty clear to everyone all along that it was a Russian-backed operation. They were trying to maintain the pretext, though, that they weren't involved. Same thing in Crimea. But what we heard from the Russian president, you know, earlier, it is very clear that this is Russia assaulting Ukraine. There is no doubt to that at all.
And in that imagery that we were just looking at from that border with Belarus, there are tanks. There are also missile launchers that appear to be on the ground there. Aaron, we'll talk to you again shortly. Aaron McLaughlin for us in Kyiv.